Okay, this is our Learn No Free Lunch series, and we're going to talk about FEMA's flood damage resistant material requirements. And we are not bound by any credit hours. We're not going to be generic or sanitize our information. We're not going to dumb it down. We're going to be as truthful as we can be the way we see it. It is up to you to filter this information and glean what is right for you. So with that, we'll get started. All right. This is great. We get emails from contractors all the time, and I got a hello, I'm a remodeling contractor and I tried out the UX 2.0 panels 3 months ago on a basement project for one of my customers. Only one room. I loved it. So how can you beat that? I am now finishing the basement on our second home, condo, and am using about 1,000 square feet of the UX 2.0 panel, this time saving an amazing, the time saving is amazing. I think I've spent less than 2 days doing all the walls in the basement with InSoFast, which probably would have taken me a couple of weeks to frame it by myself. Wanted to send you some pics and let you know how impressed I am with the product. Just ordered 3 cases to finish my project. Can do remodeling, Hudson, Michigan. Now we strip out the names because, unless the customer wants to be contacted, we certainly don't want to share that information, but we really appreciated the information that he shared with us. Now this is his basement as he did it, and his wood framing, as you can see right here, is just par excellent. You can see the InSoFast in the backside going up, what is that, 2, 4, 6 feet high, and then I guess it's frame wall up above there. It's got a nice daylight window going through. But the one disturbing thing I see here is actually that is my competitor's foam. And I don't know what he's doing with it, maybe using it for packaging or dunnage, but that's okay. But pretty cool project. Thank you for the pictures. We really enjoy that kind of contact and feedback from our customers, and we like to share that when we can. But with that, let me get into a telephone call on my cell phone. With that, I'd like to get into the silly stuff. Apparently 3 out of 4 people make up 75% of the population. Okay, that's really important because that is a statistic and fact that we all have to agree upon. Okay, and since we live in a post-truth era, I want you to know I'm an expert. So with that, I had a phone call from a contractor who's working in Cleveland, and he called up in a panic and said, "Are you BFE approved?" I had no idea what BFE was, so I had to look it up. Well, he told me what it was. He's building in a floodplain, and he has 50 houses that he has to do, and he needed to know if InSoFast was approved by FEMA. So, did we qualify? I didn't know. I didn't even know what the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, was. So I looked that up, and it's all available online, which is real nice to get that kind of information from the federal government, because they work really hard at trying to make things right for us. But, the Special Flood Hazard Areas, or the SFHAS, and the BFE, I figured out what it was. I found it. It's base flood elevation. And essentially it's also commonly referred to the 100-year flood. So you have a 1% chance that a flood is going to come in and wreck a basement. Now, it gets a little confusing as you start reading into this, and it ended up being circle logic. Now, the question about flood damage resistant materials, what they said was, if you have any questions about the flood damage resistant materials, it should be directed to the appropriate local official, the NFIP State Coordinating Officer, or one of the federal emergency management agencies, FEMA, or any of their regional offices. So, okay. What does that mean? Well, I want to state the obvious. Water management principle is not new. And if you go back to Leon Battista Abrita in 1404 and 1427, he said rain is always prepared to wreak mischief by its persistent undermining of the whole strength of the unit until it brings ruin or destruction to the whole work. Okay, the other really good, well-documented success story are the pyramids. They're built in a dry climate and they have a peak roof and they've been around for 5,000 years. So water's the problem, and that's what the base flood elevation is all about. Now, what they say in this journal is what qualifies as resistant to black water. Black water contains pollutants, it contains sewage, chemicals, all kinds of stuff. And if a house is going to flood, it really is important. Can you fix it? How much is the damage and what is it going to cost? So looking at that, this contractor needs a Class 5. Well, Class 5 is highly resistant to water damage. And what do they call Class 5? Well, in insulation, what they say it's sprayed polyurethane foam or closed cell plastic foams. Now, InSoFast is a closed cell plastic foam. We are a shape molded polystyrene panel that has closed cells. It's steam fused and is not affected by moisture. So yes, we qualify, and if you need the InSoFast properties, you just go to our website, look up technical and physical properties, go to the number 10 jump, which takes you right to that area, and it will give you the physical properties saying we're closed cell, et cetera, et cetera. So that can be important if you have to submit something. I also went back to the FEMA website with the document that I had downloaded, and it took me to this page, and it said it wasn't available. So where it actually is located is this page right here, the Media Assets Document 2655. Again, if you need corroborating evidence that expanded polystyrene InSoFast will work, you can also go to an industry link, the EPS Industry Packaging and Physical Properties, which states what we are. Now, this is also in the drawings, and I want to point this out. It said partial wet floodproofing techniques using flood damage resistant materials and for the finished wall construction. Now, this does actually drive me crazy because pretty good details, and they're calling out right here for foam plastics to be put in because that's resilient. They have their line of demarcation, the 100-year base flood, probably at that watermark or chair rail. And then they put fiberglass insulation up above where it's not going to be affected by moisture. Now, the wood frame and all of that and the gypsum drywall is not robust enough, and it is going to rot and have problems. Why put wood down there? Why put something that's going to be susceptible to damage, susceptible to rot, susceptible, it's a food source for mold? Why not just go with an insulation panel that already has a stud, drainage channels, and everything in it? Okay, well, let's go on, because, well, you want to eliminate organic matter when you can. And if you can eliminate organic matter, you're going to have a better project. So we've become pretty much experts in basement and basement remodeling and how to control and manage water, because basements are really tough. You know, it doesn't have to flood to be a pain. Water leaks through concrete. You know, a basement is one of the most challenging environments to insulate because it is below grade. The foundation is floating in a wet sea of mud. You have 100% humidity 100% of the time. And what do we really know about basements? Well, basements leak. That's the one guarantee I'll give you about basements. They will leak. So what can you do to control that leak is how you want to build your basement. Again, water, 100% humidity, it's going to leak energy, it's going to leak soil gas, it's going to leak radon. Stuff's coming in or things are going out. So you want a robust system that you put on there that's not going to deteriorate in that kind of conditions. So the Oak Ridge National Laboratory and the federal government has actually produced a lot of handbooks and best practices out there, and they're all available online. This is a particularly good publication, Oak Ridge National Laboratory's Builders Foundation Handbook. Very good, free to download, again, a government program. Now, we paid for this, you and me, the taxpayers, for this handbook, so if you want it, get it. So they talk about energy savings in there, and that's what InSoFast is. We're an energy saving panel. What does that mean? Well, what they did is they did a study and they compared R10 to an R20. And then they published this report, and essentially what the findings were that an R10 basement in Buffalo, New York is going to give you $350 worth of energy savings a year. This goes back to about 2004, I think is when it was published. If you go to an R20, if you double the insulation, you're going to hit $390 in savings. You're going to actually increase by almost 10%. And that holds true pretty much throughout all the different climate zones, from Washington, D.C., from $250 to $280 worth of savings. So looking at it like somebody who helps you invest money, they're going to look at an R10 investment of about $1,700, and they're going to go $1,700. Annual tax savings is about $307. I averaged this out. In 7 years, you get 100% payback. You're actually making money at that time. And your return on investment, what an investment banker would tell you to do, is go for the 126% return, not the 72% return. Now, saving energy is good, but sometimes it's not all that you have to consider when you're insulating a basement. Again, we're trying as a nation, as a country, to improve our insulation, save energy, so the energy that we pump out of the ground becomes more effective and we can get energy to more people. We're an energy positive country. And to build a super infrastructure, and buildings take up 40% of all our energy. So if we can reduce that, that's like building 100 energy producing plants, and that reduces our global or our carbon footprint. So we have it broken down into different climate zones, 1 through 8 in the United States. What does that mean to you? Okay, if you're insulating a basement, there's a double standard in something like this. And I don't mean that as a bad thing, I mean that as a good thing. So if I go to camera 4, here's what's important. If you take a close look at this video and stop it right here, you can see the energy requirements that are needed for the 2009 and 2012 minimum insulation codes. If you look at the 2012, which is what we should be, a lot of building areas don't have codes or that they're starting to adopt them. You're looking for basement, and it calls for an R15 and an R19. The R19 being 6-inch studs and fiberglass bats and stuff that's going to mold and rot in the basement, so it's not a good idea, no matter how dry your basement is. Try to build with no food value down there so you don't encourage mold growth. So keep it clean, keep it healthy, stay with a foam plastic. Now, InSoFast is only going to give you an R10 at best. So you would have to laminate another inch of foam on there to meet the letter of the law or the code requirements. But let's talk about something else. This is a well-intentioned basement remodel. And they're going to put insulation in there, they're going to put a vapor barrier in, and what they've really created is a microclimate behind that wall. Drywall pretty much is an air barrier, and moist concrete is always damp. If you look at the this particular basement right here, you can see that right down along here, it is damp. That's the moisture coming in, and they're going to put fiberglass on there. They have an airspace and a microclimate going behind there, and that's just going to be problems over time. This is fiberglass insulation direct on concrete, and then they're putting steel in there. They're reducing the amount of organic material in the basement. That seems like a good idea. It's not. Because fiberglass insulation is open, and it only works if it's installed correctly. It can't be compressed. It can't have gaps. The good intentions of this particular project right here with the caulking of the studs and everything, when you take a look at the thermal image, you can see where right here, this gap is right there. So you can see the hot spots where energy is leaking out. So fiberglass can be done right, but it's hard to do. It's inexpensive, but it is vapor open, which means if you trap water back in through there, you got a problem. And what really can happen that's insidious is when you hold that fiberglass wall an inch away from the concrete, you get what's a convective loop going down there. So it is warm at the top, it is cold at the bottom, and this convective loop is just going to keep spinning and creating a microclimate that will set up the conditions for mold and rot and an unhealthy indoor air quality to happen. That's why that's why the codes now call for foam insulation to be direct applied to concrete, creating a vapor barrier, a vapor stop, still letting it dry to the inside, but we don't want this convective loop going on. Because when you mix water with a little bit of time and you try and seal up organic material in a wall like a sandwich, this is what's going to happen. Now, this is a sealed bag. I don't know how the mold got in there, but it did. This is a sealed bag. I don't know how the mold got in there. It did. Okay, so you want to eliminate as much organic material as you can, because something like this looks like, oh, this is good, this is the right way to do it, but right down here where you see the fiberglass, you just eliminate the fiberglass, and that's a good application. You put fiberglass in there, and this is an air leak. It's going to draw warm, moist air in behind there, and your cold surface is going to be that foam. This foam right here is going to get damp, because that's going to be the first cold condensing surface for water to drip down and roll in, and now that drip down and it rolls in and it hits the wood plate at the bottom. Now, it doesn't seem like it should. Okay, it's insulation, but it's still, the insulation is up against a concrete wall that's going to be 55 degrees, whether it is 100 degrees outside or 20 degrees outside. It's a pretty stable environment. Insulation only prevents cold from coming in. It doesn't stop it. So eventually that foam will reach a homeostasis at about 55, 60 degrees, and that fiberglass is going to keep the interior air even warmer. But at that critical line in between the two, it can be a problem. Now this is a little bit better, but we're sealing wood into foam, and this is really crazy. It looks like there's a screw that goes right through that electrical chaseway in there. This will work. This is much better. I'd still like to see elimination of wood completely, but that's a whole lot of work. It's just 1 assembly, 2 assembly, 3 assembly, 4. I don't know how many more you should have to do. All right, so please take a look at our website, see the documentation behind this. We have InSoFast, explore InSoFast versus traditional fiberglass. Whatever you do, don't use fiberglass or any fibrous open material in a basement. Well, what we've done and what we've worked on is engineering an insulation panel. That's this one right here, with a non-conductive plastic stud. These are drainage channels, okay, or vapor channels, not really drainage channels that go in the back. And it's just simple. It's a one-part piece that clips together, interlocks, all self-aligning. Your 16 inches on center are going to be 16 inches on center. We have interior drainage systems where if you have a moisture problem, you can actually channel out, put in a drainage pipe, and drain the wall dry. So when it's finished, you can just put drywall right on it. So if the wall leaks, it directs it right down. It gets some pumped out. It never causes a problem. So other insulations we'll cover at another day, but thank you so much for watching. What this one was about was the base elevation, BFE, base flood elevation. Yes, we do qualify for it, and thank you for attending. Please keep sending pictures and keep sending the questions. If you have a question, please either email us, call us. We'd love to try and help you figure out what'll work for you. Thanks again.